ahead and call the meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting? Moved by David to approve. Second by Dara, all in favor. Visitors.
Consent agenda.
Oh, sorry, consent agenda. Permission for clerk to pay the following dues: Kansas Mayor's Association of $50, City Attorneys Association of $35, Kansas Municipal Utilities of $2,712, Kansas Rural Water Association of $812, and Kansas Municipal Judges Association of $25.
So moved.
Moved by Larry. Second by Dara, all in favor? All right, now visitors.
I want to address the council.
Okay.
Okay. And I'd like not to be interrupted while I'm doing it.
Okay.
We got this notice about trash service. I'll read it to you if you don't know what it is, and some probably don't. In the next few weeks, Hill Trash Pickup will be transitioning to automated trash pickup. They will be moving the trash receptacles and marking the locations where they need to be placed for pickup. The receptacles will need to be out in the correct location by 7 a.m. on trash day with the lids unlatched. Failure to do so will result in the receptacle not getting dumped. To better accommodate the new automatic trash service, all trash receptacles will be replaced with new ones in the next couple of months. For questions, contact City Hall. Well, they moved my trash can out in the street. The wind came up. It got knocked over several times one day. I went out and set it up. Some people came by setting it up. Somebody came to my door. I called City Hall. And I was told, if I don't take care of that trash can, I'm not going to get my trash picked up. Well, I'm paying for a service to have my trash picked up. Okay, let's go a little further. If you don't have a copy of this, here one is. And I don't know who all participated in making that up. Okay, it don't say anything about our age to be dragging a receptacle around. I don't know how heavy it is. When it's full of trash, it's heavier. I'm in my 80s. Darlene Fiker told me I could use her knee. She's mid-90. She uses a cane, she uses a walker. When we go out to coffee, she holds onto my arm. So, I got health issues. I also got a essential shake problem. I've had it for years. But anyhow, mine is spinal. Plus, they tell me my shoulder's a mess. I'm supposed to be dragging a trash can around for the Hill boys. Anyhow, actually my health care is nobody's business but me and HIPAA. The next thing is, I pay for a service to the city for picking up my trash, my electricity, and my water. The water hasn't told me to come help dig out a water line because it's broke. The electricity hasn't told me to come help them hook up electric line, but the trash boys, they want us to physically help them out so they can sit in an automatic truck. What they call automatic, nothing's automatic totally today. I'm an old farm girl, and I remember milking those cows. Then out came the milkers. That was supposed to be automatic. You know, I don't know a cow that could put it on herself. We had to put it on. and we had to take it off, and we had to clean it. And that's with any other thing that's automated. There has to be a driver, there has to be a programmer, there has to be something. Well, anyhow, this is the Constitution of the United States of America. And I'm very much interested in fact, if you'd like to see Amendment 13 and 14, and I'll read those to you. Is there a policeman in the house? Do I have a criminal record?
I don't know who you are.
I'm Gudrun Schoenrobe.
Not that I know of.
So I haven't been committed of a crime. Okay. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereas the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Amendment 14. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, I don't see that anybody can put us under slave labor because somebody got an automated truck and they don't want to get their fannies out of it. And I guess that's my saying, except one thing. Well, a couple things. Remember when that strong wind was, blown? My trash can went down the street. About that time, here comes a white vehicle, almost a head-on collision. They're a hazard out in the street, and the good Lord, I think, provides the wind. I have no power over that. If I did, I'd be up there and he'd probably be down here. The other thing is, my trash was not picked up from before Thanksgiving till almost Christmas. And I am not going to go out there and set up trash cans and pull them around because I think the Constitution is behind me and I'm willing to contact politicians or whatever I have to get the service I'm paying for. And I think anybody who has had their hand in writing that little green slip, it came out green, I gave you a white one. I think they're also committing a crime against the Constitution and against us people in St. Francis, Kansas. And the other thing, I looked very hard under those two amendments, and I could not find that it says that the hills and the city of St. Francis can take my constitutional rights away from me. Now, if you think you got something on.
And I don't know, have you discussed?
And by the way, tomorrow's trash day, and I'm not picking up my trash can. It's laying over. I'll throw my trash in it, and they better pick it up because I can start phone calls very easy.
So you can
we can check to see if we can do any kind of adjustments made. Otherwise, we've asked people to help others out.
That's been the kind of this, with that exception.
And Hill has no other people, right?
Correct.
One-man operation.
I think two vehicles.
Right.
Talk to Hill, I guess, see if he can do something.
We're gonna run into this again on that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
It is.
'Cause they get
What's
blown
that?
all over the place.
What's that? What'd you say?
The same.
It
We're
is
gonna-
trash
we're gonna
city.
hit- We're gonna hit this again.
And we can see if any of the cities that use them have any ideas for how.
Yeah, any other options?
Problem is
Because
that.
we were the last city
Yeah,
to.
the trash service can't get employees to work. It's the problem, one of the problems.
Can I say a couple other things?
So.
Sure.
I was told by family of a city employee that says the Hills don't know what they're doing. And I was told by a couple other people that some city employees stated that the trash service was much better when St. Francis was doing it. And I was in a business place the other day, and the people was telling me that when the city of St. Francis was doing their own, was better service than now.
Probably, because we have a lot of help.
It's certainly
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
service than what it is.
Different
Yeah.
service, a lot of help.
When we talked about this originally, we anticipated coming down this road. We tried to head it off. And what were some of the options that we had on the table?
Trying to get other people to.
Like neighbors and
help
that
out
sort of thing?
neighbors and help out the
Okay.
individuals.
Because, I mean, we all kind of support each other here in town, so I mean,
But you're not always,
Yeah.
she's in kind of a unique location up where she's at, for one thing. Or is everybody gonna be able to get their neighbors to come and do it all the
Right.
time? That's one, you're right, that's one of the things we had discussed.
and Josh, excuse me, I don't know where you live. Where do you live?
707 South Adams.
Okay.
You know where Troy's Transformation Body Shop was at, right behind it.
Okay.
And my trash can was in the backyard, and it wasn't blowing out in the street, and I didn't have to drag it around.
Right.
But they I think, got the idea that they got an automatic truck, so therefore they can stay set, and then you fools go out there and do the work for us.
Was your trash originally picked up in the alley?
Yes. There was three trash cans right there, Wade crying, mine, and the neighbor, Mayberry's. They could have put a bigger trash dump in there and probably went in and picked it all up with one receptacle, if they are capable. But otherwise, they messed us up, at least me.
And
And
part of the
and
problem, the
Darlene.
city had to outsource, because obviously finding help, and, when the city ran the trash truck, it was a full week, right, JR? I mean, it took
Every
two guys
day,
a
then.
full 5 days a week just to empty the trash. And the problem with Hill Trash Service is they're having the same problem finding employees, and that's why they had to go automated, or they were going to have to drop us. So
Well, the thing of it is, I don't have any automation, and I'm older than they are, and so is Darlene Fikert, and a lot of other people, and we still live under the Constitution.
Correct. And I'll visit with JR, and we'll see if there's something that we can do to help.
Because I'm sure that if the Hills have the business elsewhere, a lot of these cities would like to know what we're developing into. And I'm
I'm
going
quite
to keep
certain
my
this-
mouth shut.
Well, I'm quite certain there's some common sense ways we can address these issues going forward, because you're right. I mean, you got a full receptacle and it's halfway down the street, and you're in your 80s. We don't anticipate or expect, someone like yourself to be dragging that thing halfway back down the street. But at the same time, we're limited in what we're able to do. So we're going to have to come up with some solutions.
they better,
We'll check and see what some of these other cities are doing.
because I've had several people down at the center and stuff talk to me.
Well, we appreciate you coming and letting us know, Gideon.
Yep.
We wouldn't
Well,
know unless you told us.
I don't think you're gonna get around not doing something about it, because no matter how you try and dress it, it still comes under the Constitution of the United States of America, of what we are reliable to do,
Sure.
and that's our choice.
May I say one thing? She's just one of many seniors that can't really drag that trash can around. And there's a lot of them, I hear from several of them too, and I support her and what she wants to do here. Something needs to be done. And I know you say you have trouble getting city employees to work on the trash truck. If I could go out and find 2 people that'll work on a trash truck, would you get rid of Hill City? Or are they under contract now?
Well, they're under contract
I
now.
can tell you something else. Thanks for mentioning it. The day when, before Christmas, when they did pick up my trash, I went into Majestics where guys were having their prayer meeting, their Bible meeting, and I walked in there and told them, hey, my trash hasn't been picked up since before Thanksgiving. Well, you know, the odd thing was, and I don't know if anybody may have said something to anybody, it seemed so coincidental, I doubt if they did, but anyhow, the city comes by with a pickup, 2 guys in it, slowly driving while I was pulling this out so that they could be picked up that day, because I decided, okay, I'll try. And I almost dropped it. And they were just there, and I thought, oh, they were going to stop and pull this out for me. They went around the corner to the east, and I didn't pay any attention. All at once I heard this rumbling outside. So I looked outside. Here is, guess what? The trash truck picking up my trash. Well, when I looked out, evidently they lost the receptacle into their bin, and they couldn't get it out, so they were trying to open a gate on this truck, and they were having difficulty opening that gate. And finally they got it open. Well, then they started pulling on the trash receptacle, and he pulled, then he opened the door, and here was the other guy and the puppy in there. And then he went back, pulled, he got my trash, well, it's the city's trash receptacle, out, and he dropped it to the ground. And it was almost like he was going to leave it laid, then he backed up and picked it up and set it up, and he got in the truck and drove off. And I'll have to go along with the city guy that maybe they don't know how to run the equipment.
Well, I appreciate your being here and your concerns, and we will do what we can to address it and alleviate the issues that you have. So, Cody, did you have?
I got a couple things to talk about.
Okay. You're up next.
I'll start with the.
I guess I didn't. Jim, are you here?
I'm just
Okay.
here
Okay.
listening.
All right. Perfect.
So, first one is good. Well, they're all good things. I don't have anything bad to talk about. So, Troy started the police academy today. So we got 14 weeks before he gets back, but he'll be back, and that'll put us at the 6-man for the first time since we took the contract over. The first time we'll be fully staffed. We'll start our new schedule, which will have officer stack from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. with only leaving a 4-hour gap if there's somebody not out actively patrolling. It also stacks us so that during the busiest times by the dispatch schedule that we have 2 deputies out. So that way it's not one deputy trying to take care of the county, the city of St. Francis, the city of Birch City all at once. So we'll be able to leave somebody that's going to be around town doing town stuff, you know, which should make us a little bit more, for crime prevention, but the big thing is like the ordinance enforcements and stuff like that. It's not something that happens because complaint. They'll be actively looking for for stuff instead of just responding to phone calls and stuff about things. So I'm really excited about that, to get him back. That'll be the 1st of May when he graduates and comes back, and that's when we'll start our new schedule. And hopefully you notice a difference in the way we patrol once we, now that everybody's through the academy back and we're active going out there patrolling. So it should change dramatically coming May if nobody else leaves or something. So if you're able to keep that 6. So that's the first thing to talk about. Second thing is I'm planning on getting with Jennifer, make sure the verbiage is right and everything. We're going to advertise. We talked about last year and stuff of doing something about the golf carts and ATVs and stuff like that. What I would like to do is pick a Saturday in February, kind of look at the weather and see a good day for it. Advertise and try to set up like a Saturday and tell everybody in town, hey, this is a good day to come down. We're going to be doing them. We're going to be doing the inspections. We'll just line them up and call them, make an appointment, and we'll get them done. I want to blast it on Facebook and in the paper and everything, but I also want to make sure that I get the verbiage right on the ordinances and stuff like that. So I'll get with Jennifer to make sure that we're right. And if you guys think that's a good idea, that's what I'd kind of like to do is advertise. Hey, don't forget, because last year what we ran into was we got into spring, we got into summer when it got nice and people were driving. Well, their golf carts and side-by-sides were sitting in the building in January, February, March. They weren't thinking about, I got to renew this tag. And then they'd go out and take it out in April or May, and that's when the streets got flooded with these vehicles that didn't have the proper renewal sticker in the back. So I think this year I just want to kind of remind people, hey, I know everything's sitting inside. You're not even thinking about driving your golf cart around yet, but we need to get these renewed so when it comes springtime, everything's good and ready to go. So that's kind of my plan to do that. I'm kind of hesitant. I don't want to push it back too far because you get into March, the weather gets good, and then people start getting them out. Maybe February is the wrong time to do it, but I'd at least put the reminders out there to do it and set up a day that people can come in on a Saturday and get these done, and we can maybe assembly line a whole bunch of them, get them done, and then they can put them back away again until April or May. So,
Cody,
yeah.
They had asked us, Jen and I, to put a notice in the next utility bills.
Okay, that'd be
about just a reminder
Yeah.
that it's that time of year. So just
and
letting you know.
when I get closer to looking at where we get a little bit more confirmation on weather, and I get closer, I'll probably put it on Facebook. Of course, I'll let you guys know too, and hopefully we have enough time to put it in the paper too. But I kind of want to look at the forecast. I don't want to pick a weekend that's got a blizzard predicted or something like that, and I don't want to pick the weekend of Super Bowl, so it's kind of hard to find a weekend.
Maybe then we'll get some snow.
Maybe that's what it'll take to do that. So, but that's kind of my thoughts, and like I said, I'm kind of teetering on the fence whether to wait and to go into March, but the weather can be just as bad in March as it can be in February sometimes. So.
And you guys are re-inspecting the.
We're going to re-inspect everything. We had the new approach to doing it with the flags and all that other stuff. So I was told in the past that, once they've already been inspected, that what happened was they just checked the insurance and, went on. And I was told that one of the reasons they did that was so they didn't have to drive down Main Street to get them inspected to keep them off Main Street. Well, obviously we've changed some things, and we're going to enforce the slow-moving vehicle and the flag, stuff like that. So these ones, even if they were inspected last year, need to be inspected again to make sure they're in compliance with the city ordinances. That's why I want to blast it with the information saying, hey, here's the ordinance. This is what to expect when you come to get it inspected. This is what you need to have on it when we inspect it. And we are going to be looking for these things now as we do the inspection. So I just want to get that information out there so people, with no information, they show up and we're like, I can't give you a sticker because you don't have a flag. And then now they got to spend 2 weeks finding a flag.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any place local in town to buy a flag or not.
I don't know either.
So,
Okay.
but my plan is to get the information out and then set the inspection date coming up. Because like I said, I think a lot of times people don't think about it in January and February because they're not using those things. So they don't think about that they need to renew their
Sounds like a good
sticker.
approach.
So, yeah. about all I have. Served property cleanup notices, things like that. Working on things. The one question I have for you guys as a council, I talked to Amanda a little bit about it, is when we have these vehicles and we've told the people, you need to move that vehicle. We go back, you need to move that vehicle. There's a couple of them that we got to the point that we were pretty darn close to towing. What is your guys' opinion on how you guys want to handle that? I mean, ultimately, it's a city ordinance, so it's underneath your guys'. We have a liability in it as well, the sheriff's office, but you guys have a liability. Like, where do you want to put them? Where do you want them towed to? Who do you want to tow it? Things like that. How do you want to handle that if we get to that point? Because I thought we were to that point with some of these vehicles that we were trying to get off the street, where, straight up told, go ahead and write me a ticket. I still don't have any way to get it out here. Is what we're told. What do you guys want to do once we get to the point that we have to tow a vehicle?
And they couldn't move it or wouldn't move it?
Couldn't is the claim. I don't have a vehicle to pull it with. I don't have any way to move it. It's inoperable. I can't move it. I don't have any way to tow it, move it myself.
Right.
We get to that point. How do you guys want that handled?
In the past, and it's not a solution currently, but they used to take them down behind the power plant, but then you're storing someone else's vehicle who you decided they're having it there. That's not an option. So what options do we have?
Us, when we do it on the highway, there's a abandoned vehicle on the highway and we have it towed, we document that we have it towed. We have a tow form that we fill out that we had it towed. We inventory the vehicle, if we can get in it, of everything that was in there. And then from there on, it's the tow company. The tow company takes it to wherever. They have to go pay the tow company to get their vehicle back, and it's done. If we're holding it as evidence, we take it to the county lot. But these are not vehicles that are being held for evidence. These are just vehicles that are outside. They're not supposed to be on the street. They're not registered. They're not whatever. They're inoperable. Whatever reason we tow them. That's the way we do it if it's on a county road or on a state highway. We just call a tow company. They tow it. It's there. Once they hook up to it, once we sign our tow form, it's theirs. The person, when they call and say, what happened to my vehicle, call such and such towing, they have it. And we're pretty lenient. We don't go tow the first time we go see something, unless it's sitting in the middle of the highway, which we've had happen. But unless it's a safety hazard, we don't tow until we made every opportunity for the owner to get it moved. But once you get to that point where it's not going to move. I'm not suggesting one way or the other, but that's how we do it. And it lowers, we don't have to deal with receipting money. We don't have to deal with, this or that. We just, once the tow company hooks up to it, it's theirs. They take it to wherever. They're liable for it. Wherever they put it, it's on their liability. So we only use a bonded, insured tow company to do that. It's on them. And then when the person, what's that?
Do we have one?
Yes, Lanco Motorsport is actually licensed through the state to pull for the KHP and us. So, and we say, what's that?
Get into an issue of where it can be stored.
That's why I'm saying that's on him. Once you sign the tow sheet and release it to him.
Yeah, was it going to be stored in town or would it be stored out of the lot?
That's on him.
Where the?
He's
I
licensed.
think we're getting to the other issue that we have there. But and then you just tell them that's
Who pays for that up front?
What's that?
Is it paid for up front?
No. When we do that, we sign it over to him. He holds it, and then he follows the state statutes of he has it for so many days. Nobody came, blah blah blah. And then he can do whatever he needs to do to get payment out of that vehicle by getting a mechanic's lien or something like that through it. But that again, that's on him. That's why I like that process. That's why we do it in the county. As soon as we sign that tow sheet over to him, that's his deal to go through court to get that taken care of, instead of sending the bill to us and saying you got to pay for it, and then we have to go through the process of trying to do something to get the vehicle and try to recoup expenses that way. But that's just one way of doing it. You might want to talk to Lauren, see how she feels about doing it, but that's the way we do it on the county road. Unless it's involved in a crime, and that's a completely different scenario. So, but that's something, maybe at the next meeting, if you guys have a chance to talk to Lauren and stuff, we can talk about how you guys want the tow procedure to do. And honestly, being patient. We usually don't have to go that far. It almost went that far with this last vehicle. So we, I just want to make sure we have a plan that everybody's happy with before we do it.
Well, that's a good, so in a 12-month span, what's the average time you run across this?
Of something getting to the point that we tow it? Probably once a year. Most of the time we get compliance, they'll tell you, I can't do it this week, but I can maybe do it next week. If you wanted to be more heavy-handed, you would run into it more. But if I sit there and tell Amanda, hey, your vehicle is broke down, it's got 2 flat tires, it hasn't moved in 6 weeks, it's on a snow route, you need to get it moved, and she goes, I'm going to be busy until Sunday. Okay, then move it Sunday. Then you usually don't have to tell them. But if you're going to stand there and say, no, I want this moved today, you're probably going to start towing a lot more vehicles. But I've always found that, everybody, not everybody, a lot of people have jobs. You understand that? And if they say, I can't move it till Sunday or I can't move it till next Wednesday on my day off, if you're willing to work with them on that way, they usually get moved on their own. It's about once a year you move into one that is just not getting taken care of for whatever reason. So it's not something that happens a lot, but it's something that happens enough or should happen enough that we should probably have a policy and a plan so we do it the same way every time. So.
How many do we have on the streets now?
What's that?
How many do we have out there now that need towing?
We got the ones on the snow route and that RV taken care of. Two on the snow route yet?
Those are still remaining, yes.
Okay, so then the one, I'm thinking of the one, if it's still on the snow route, then it's probably going to have to be towed. We'll probably tow it next week. Because I for some reason I thought that one got moved, but if it has not been moved.
Talking about 2 blue ones, right?
Yeah. Okay. Then they're probably, that's the ones I was talking about with, I thought we were going to get to the point to tell them, I'm going to say next week we're at the point we're going to tell them.
And on the snow route?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we have been extremely patient with it. So I'll probably call Amanda and get a Mariel, is that the word? Is that a word? Mariel to send, this time I'll call her and I told her I wasn't going to tow one unless I talked to the mayor before I had it towed. But they're still on that snow route, and I think I said next week. This week, probably get it towed.
Have they been issued tickets, or just you need to move it?
Just you need to move it multiple times. And my opinion is, if we're towing it, they need a ticket. Mm-hmm. If we've gone that far, that's, ride ticket, tow truck's hooking it up, here's your ticket. Mm-hmm. We've been extremely patient, we've been, understanding, but we also have to enforce the ordinance, and we got to keep the snow routes clear, safety reasons, all those things. So yeah, they'll probably be issued a ticket. Not probably, they'll be issued a ticket if we tow, because I think you need that enforcement level. We need that enforcement action to back up our reasoning for being towed. I think if you towed it without giving a ticket, you're opening the door to, it might be able to get towed. Now you have documentation. Now whatever the municipal court wants to do with that ticket, they could give that person grace or whatever. But I think to protect the liability of the sheriff's office and the city, if you're hooking up and towing their vehicle, if you're essentially, it's a Fourth Amendment issue. You're seizing their property. And if you're going to seize their property, then you better have a reason to suspend their Fourth Amendment rights. And I think you need that documentation through an NTA, the ticket, to show why you suspended their Fourth Amendment rights over that property.
Anything else?
Thanks, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve isn't here, so Bill, you're up.
Okay. I'm assuming all of you have read my complaint by now. It addressed several things. The first one, say I know your job's not an easy one. I've been in your position before. I apologize to Mandy because I thought the mayor would be here. When I wrote that letter, I talked to him the day before. I didn't know he was taking off because this sort of puts you in the hot seat there, and I apologize on that. But I do have some complaints, and some of you my age have been here. Remember, say, for instance, from 20 years ago or whatever. Roadside Park was a to the top of Highway 36. Our streets in town were in good shape. The yards were maintained, stuff like that. Fact is, at one time, when I worked for a year after retirement service, 85, if a yard was ran down, and especially if it was a senior citizen, whatever, we, as a city, went over and cleaned that yard for them to keep the standards up. Now, I know that practice is not done now. I know there are some people that do a lot of yard cleaning, stuff like that. But I'm concerned about the continued deterioration of the looks and appearance of St. Francis. I'm going to start first with the roadside park. When you pull into the front restroom there, it's my understanding any public restroom is supposed to be handicap accessible. I could be wrong on that, but I mentioned to you here a while back that there needs to be a sign put in that front restroom saying handicapped restrooms are in the rear. Because I've watched a person try to get out of his car in a wheelchair and go to that restroom. I went over and explained to him where there was one he could get in. A simple sign saying handicapped restrooms and showers in the rear restroom. A very simple thing. Now, how hard is it to comply with something like that? Well, it's been several months since I made that suggestion. It hasn't been taken care of yet. I've talked about the condition of roadside park over and over again. Trash blown into the fence all the way around, stuff like that. As an example, today I was up at the roadside park, I filled a 5-gallon can full of water. City vehicle came up the east-hand side, turned, went over in front of the restroom, and turned, went back out. I never stopped, never did anything else. Look back at that south fence, it's full of trash. There's tree branches. Those tree branches have been laying there for 3 weeks now. What is this? What's happened with our tax dollars? Can a person see trash on the ground? I'm serious. There's no excuse for the condition of the roadside park. None whatsoever. You know, you've got people that work for the city. Now, I know you don't ask for say, okay, they're trash pickup, but they can see trash all around. There are several people, and I'm one of them, that follow the city, a city pickup one time. I was at Pete Jensen's, saw it pickup pulled out, so I followed it. Made a 15-block circle around St. Francis and went right back. Power plant never once got out. And he drove right past trash while they were doing it. Why? There's no excuse for it. It needs to stop. And that's just one example of many that I've seen. I'm not the only person that's seen this happen. And like I said, there's no excuse for it. You know, our town is slowly, and has been for a while, going downhill. There's no need of that. Now, we've got a lot of new people in town, yes. But that's because of the COVID. If the COVID hadn't struck, we'd have less people in town than we do right now. A lot of people bought homes online without seeing the town. How many people that bought a home have packed up and moved on down the road because of high taxes and stuff, which I'll get to, and the condition of our infrastructure. There's no excuse for it. I mentioned trash cans on Main Street. Bird City, it's just around the corner here, 18 miles. Drive over and look at what they've done just in Bird City alone. And I've suggested that in there. They have more trash cans on their block-long Main Street than we have on our entire Main Street. They're not expensive trash cans. The way they've done it, little fence around it, and regular trash cans in there. And if you go down to Atwood, which I'd recommend somebody do, go down to Atwood and look at what they've done in their business district. It's not expensive, but they got park bench, got a flower pot on one side and trash can on the other. They're not real expensive. You drive up and down Main Street, you constantly see trash thrown out on the street. If you had 2 trash cans per block, and like I said, they don't have to be expensive ones, you would eliminate a lot of that trash. And, you know, and the other thing is, getting out the newspaper and whatever, saying that we want people to use the trash cans, whatever. I'm concerned about the cleanliness of the town and the appearance of it. Because first impressions are last impressions. Now myself, I'm fortunate that I was able to travel for 14 years after my mom passed away. I've been in RV parks, restrooms, rest areas, stuff all around the United States. The only state I haven't been in the United States is Maine. And I see the condition of rest areas and stuff like that. And I see what ours looks like. If I was a traveler coming out of the west and pulled pull in the rest area, maybe decide to cross over to go to the Eagle store. Once I got on that access road, I would never stop. I just keep on going out of town, and a lot of them do. Now, we've got a dog park up there. Now, I disagree with the location, but I agree with the dog park, and it is being used. But people that have large dogs, there's not really enough room for them to really run and get the exercise. That, for some of you may have seen rest areas along the way, dog parks. Goodland's a good example of it. Their dog park is not right on public way, but people know where it's at. When I travel, I've got a book that says where dog parks are along the different highways, so you can get off, let your dogs run. Like I say, I agree with the idea. I just don't agree with the location or the size of it. But whoever made that decision, it's there and it's getting used. I've been watching it, and people are using it. So at least that's a start there. But if they stop there and they look at the restrooms, or well, I won't go any further than that. I've made a point on the condition of the park there. Now, the frontage road. I know the state was maintaining it for a long time. And the new person's out there in charge of the state. I talked to him in Oakland a few months ago when he's going to be transferred over. He said that the state is willing to work with us to try to repair that access road, or frontage road. I don't know whether any of you have talked to him or not. But if you might go out there and talk to him to find out, you can come together. Now, I know the cost to repair all these streets in this town is a multi-million-dollar project. And the reason why, and I'll say this, and I ask the question, why haven't we, or why did they discontinue sealing the streets in this town? Why did that discontinue? I know out behind me, there's a city office down there. There's plenty of equipment to overlay and replace streets, but there's not a hot oiler down there. What happened to the hot oiler? Streets need to be resealed every 2 to 3 years. Otherwise, they dry out and the potholes form. Drive North Street and look, the potholes are already starting to form in it. And it's only 2 years old. Now that street had been sealed, those potholes wouldn't have started. It's plain simple. There's no excuse for these streets not to have been sealed correctly down the road. I know the year, like I said, I worked for SIG for a year after I got out of service. We overlaid so many streets and we sealed so many streets back here. And the process continued on down. There's no reason why these streets have not been sealed. Now, the city for itself, there's not enough tax dollars to repair all these streets. It should never have been that way if these streets have been properly maintained all along. Where has the money gone, say, in the last 15 years that was allocated to fix our streets? Where did that money go?
We stopped receiving it from the state.
Pardon?
We stopped receiving it from the state.
Okay. But how about the city budget? There's no money in the city
There's not
budget.
even anywhere close to enough to be in there.
Well, no, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about in the past. I know most of you are young.
We're all new.
You're all new. You're all new, all of you are. But my question is, where did the money go 15 years ago on that the city was appropriating out of the city budget to maintain the streets? What happened to the hot oiler? I've been told different things, but those are just outhouse rumors, so I'm not going to say one way or the other. But if these streets had been sealed all along, they wouldn't be in the condition they are now. Drive down the street, all over with weeds growing out. Now, if you take a look on Main Street, as an example now, I know none of you were here at the time, but there's not one business owner voted to have trees put on Main Street, not one. But the city council at that time decided they knew better. The trees were put on there. On Main Street, look at the lead problem we got on Main Street now. Also, if you look where these trees were put, right in front of the doorways of each business. To me, it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. And a lot of your old business owners said the same thing. They should have never been put there. Now, what happens on Main Street is the leaves are there, unless the wind blows, you don't even get them off the sidewalk. Well, why don't you take the street sweeper out late at night and clean the street and get those leaves off of there? It'd be so simple. I know that because I used to run the street sweeper I've swept this street, Main Street, many times after midnight when no cars were on there. The other thing I look at is when the snow removal. You don't have much snow here now compared to what they did 15, 20 years ago. We would be out when the snow early in the morning and have it all at least bladed up to the center of the road. And there'd be a salt melt spread along the south side of the street to keep that ice from freezing up. We've got a lot of senior people here. I'm one that I have certain problems there. When you walk across ice, it's very simple for a person to fall, break an arm, a leg, or whatever. Simple thing, you blade it, put salt melt down there or something to keep that ice from reforming. How difficult would that be? That's just looking ahead, because all of us are going to be old people at one time or another. Some of us may be quicker than others. But it's a danger to everybody. Up at the high school, where the parking lot, there's a lot of trees there. That snow was never bladed out of there. Wait till Mother Nature melted. That's an impact there. Somebody could fall, hurt themselves. All I'm talking about is standards. It's something that I've preached before. There's a lot of volunteers here in Cheyenne County of all ages. And that's half of what keeps the county going. From the thrift store to the museum to even the food shelters. That's all volunteer. And I volunteer in a lot of things too. There's a lot of volunteers who want to see the town maintained and look better. But the volunteers can't do it all themselves. Now, I know you've heard me complain about trash. It's not a holdover from the military. When I was a kid, if I threw trash on the ground, my dad slapped me upside the head in my heartbeat. I didn't throw trash on the ground. But every day, I'll fill up at least a 30-gallon trash bag of trash right off the streets of St. Francis. Every day. If you talk to the person who runs the landfill, he'll tell you every 2 weeks I come out there with a heaping trailer load of trash. And most of that comes right off the streets of St. Francis. You go up here along the 36 highway, look at all the bushes to the south. They're blown full of trash. Here, just before Christmas, you take from where the majestic east entrance is to the west entrance going into the Pizza Hut. That was a wall of cardboard boxes. I went up there and cleaned them all up, bust them down so I could put them in my van, filled the complete back of my van and half the driver's side. They all had Pizza Hut. So I went over, called the temporary manager out and showed him that. He told me it wouldn't happen again, but I noticed there's boxes out there again. But why would I, as a private citizen, have to go do that when you're the community leaders? Why didn't one of you step up and say, hey, you need to clean up this? All you had to do is look at the box and know where it came from. And it holds true in a lot of ways. Now, you notice, as an example, up at the Eagle store, it's been cleaned up, and there are people working there, stuff like that there. Before, it was a trashed out place, foul-mouthed language all the time, fights inside the store, fights outside the store. I got fed up with it. I go over there normally about 7 o'clock, I have an evening cup of coffee. I wrote a 5-page letter to the owner of the Eagle store. He was down 2 days and fired everybody. So it was cleaned up, repainted on the outside, inside, stuff like that. And that's, again, a private citizen stepping up when, I don't know, don't we have some sort of pride committee to maintain things like that? We go back to when they had the bike rally here. There was a small motorhome come in, they had the flags extended on the top, said blank Biden. Now, I may not care for the president, but I respect the office of the president. My personal feelings toward him doesn't make any difference. But how many public officials saw that sign or saw that flag flying and did nothing? I was at a yard sale and I heard 2 elderly women talking about how disgusting that was. So I went down Main Street, I saw it. I went straight to him and told him that wasn't appropriate for this town. He said, well, I forgot to take it down when I came in town. Well, it wasn't flying when it was going down the highway. It was just one of flimsy staffs. He started making excuses, and I told him, take it down or I'll have you arrested. They took it down. And again, this is a private citizen stepping out. And a private citizen shouldn't have to when you have community leaders. And I asked how many community leaders saw that flag up there. I know one because I thought he'd be here today. I talked to him a couple days later, he said, well, been up for an hour and a half, and that's the mayor. Why the hell did he go there and have him take that sign down? He's involved with the bike outfit. Why didn't he do something about it? And that's the reason I said I thought he was going to be here today. Another community leader was talking to me, with a group, and he says, and it's about the group up at the Old Eagle store. He said, well, I saw a person over there beating the heck out of a little dog, and the woman come out and cuddled and took it inside. Now, if I was the mayor, I would have called the sheriff and had that guy arrested for animal cruelty. There's a standard that has to be set as community leaders. And most of my life, I've been in the hot seat one way or the other. You make decisions that are not always the most popular. But if you set a standard, people will come up to it. If your standards keep going down, things deteriorate, just like what you see right here. Now, do any of you have any questions of me? Because I know there's a lot more in that letter than what. But I don't want to drag out any dirty laundry out here any more than what I've said right now. But you know where I stand. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying that we need to set a standard, community pride program or whatever. And if there's elderly people that can't maintain their yard, call me. I'll go help them out. I know there's other people who do the same thing. You take just right up the street here. You know where the new swimming pool is. Now, laying there in the street for almost 4 months was a 4x4 fence post. Now, the person that has that yellow house in the corner of Francis and Washington Street raked all of his leaves out in the street. And he picked them all up, and he picked up that 4x4 fence post. It lay there for almost 4 months. How many people drove by that? I drove by it waiting to see how long it would take for somebody to pick that up that worked for the city. 4 months lay in the street? How many people drove by that? That doesn't make any sense. When I can stop, pick up trash, have a community leader walk by me and not do anything, we've got a problem. When a person's working for the city, they should be working for the city for the 8 hours or whatever it is he's assigned to, not out goofing off someplace. And I refer to people driving around town, walking around town or whatever. If there's trash, carry a trash bag with you, pick up trash. You're doing something for the betterment of the community. Okay. And like I say, I apologize to you because I thought the mayor would be here. Okay, thank you.
Anybody? Thank you. Thank you, Bill. All right. GAAP Resolution 2022-1.
We pass this every year for not exclude, but the way that we do the accounting, what's the word? It's not exclude from the state statute, but basically, it's, yes, from the statute, because of the way that we do the accounting. And it's a resolution we pass every year. I did send it to Lauren for her review, and she said it looked good.
Pass the GAAP resolution, moved by Gail.
Second.
Second by David. We need to vote, correct?
Resolution, yes.
David?
Yes.
Gail? Yeah, Neil, third.
Yes.
All right, motion passed. Water emergency plan review.
Nothing changed this year, so it's exactly the same. All of the emergency contacts are the same. If you've had a chance to look over it, I didn't make any changes to it. Everything looked good to me. If you looked over it and it looked good to you, we can approve it. You can approve it.
The basic of it is it's a requirement of our state to have an emergency water plan. Usually the things that we have to review is, I guess, one, if they require any changes in that. And the other thing is just the contractors and the supplies available for the emergency plan.
Any questions on that? Not to have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dale, second by Larry, all in favor? Passed.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks.
Property cleanup.
I think the court, the attorney has the ones that we're working on right now. We have, I guess you may have something to add to that, but I think she was forwarded information on status, right?
Yes.
Of the pending ones that we
Yes, I
have.
sent the
So, yeah.
pictures to on the East 4th Street,
Right.
the status update on that one, and then the one on South of Denison had an ownership change, so they finally come through and get that deed, so I don't know, but
Should we start over on that one, or do you hear from them?
There's still a court case
there's still
open
a
on
court
that.
case open, but because he
On
didn't
the previous
comply with
owner.
getting the
Okay.
deed to Bourne, and
But again, I think those both are.
we probably will have to start over with the new,
Mhm.
so. Projects pending.
What is the latest on Cato? Anything?
We were still trying to find that letter, and I think I just need to reach back out to Michael, because we never did find that letter we were looking for, and
This, like the stopping or the previous maintenance, I don't know. Anyway, we can check with that later. But
the letter that they replied that they were going to no longer maintain
Right.
is what he was wanting, so we had verification that they had maintained it since the 1978 agreement, so, but I think what we have at least is enough to.
There was actually a letter out there saying they would not maintain it?
No longer.
Yes, no longer.
And it was recent. It was with them, the odds here. It was.
It was probably since I've been on, it's been since I've been on.
Has it been that
I think
recent?
so. So we're talking 6 years that they, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah, that we had sent them a letter, right? Was that when we sent them a?
The one that where they
cleanup?
said they was doing it, the city a favor by doing it and was
We're
no
no
longer going to do that. That they weren't obligated to do it prior to that, but anyway.
We can touch base and I can send that. Sure.
On another topic, JR, our church does that Faith in Action Sunday every year, and about 6 years ago, one of the jobs we did around town was those benches, the stone benches around the bench shell. They had the 2x4 seats, and a lot of those 2x4 seats, the 2x4 wood was just dilapidated, so what we did is we just replaced the wood and we painted them. But since being on the council now, I know the whole historical thing with the. Will we mess things up if we go back? That's one of the things. Someone said there's a couple of benches that need fixed again. Are we going to mess anything up if we don't put some new 2x4 on there? And
No, because that
okay.
was the original. That's what was on those.
Okay.
It's just wood planks. No, I think that's
Okay.
We can look back, but I mean, we can go by pictures, but I'm sure that all that ever was planks on those things.
we just put it exactly the way it was. We just.
I think so. That'd be fine.
Back to this access road deal. Bill, who did you say you would talk to?
He's a new person out there. He's Spanish oriented, but he's a new person at the state shop.
Here in town?
Here in town, yes.
You remember his name?
I've got it written down.
Is he the new?
He lives in McDonald, and he's driving over there every day. But he was moved from Atwood to McDonald, and when I talked to him the first time, he said part of the reason was to get with you to see if we can, get the frontage road fixed.
We've addressed that with a lot higher up individuals. That's part of where we're spinning our wheels.
Well, I was at 2 meetings and Amanda was at on that same problem, and another one there. And then I'd gone down to Old London to Atwood, and I talked to him, the new guy being transferred in. And I had to see him for the same thing because the Lions Club and the VFW, we adopted the highway basically from 15 to 13. The paperwork is in there. So unofficially, we've been maintaining it anyway. But I had to get it notarized, and he had to notarize his signature. And that went off this week. So in order to catch him, you probably have to get out there About 8 to 8:15, because there's only 3 people out there, and they're all out on the road after that.
I think we're going to run into the same thing, talking to a local individual, is the secondary transportation level is where it's.
I agree with what you're saying, but it couldn't hurt to ask,
No.
at least see what he's thinking.
Of course.
Mhm.
Just have to find out who it is and figure out a way to contact him.
If I remember, his first name was Ken, but I'm willing to go out there and ask him if he can make a meeting with you or whatever.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it needs to be initiated from the council.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll reach out to them and make contact. Anything else on projects pending? We need to make it, yes. I will send a text out maybe this evening. We've got a few different things we need to discuss, so. Anything else? Streets project.
So Tyler will be here at the next meeting. We have that section of 4th Street that was added into kind of preservation for the parkway, that half block, that we have not paid for yet. That'll be a final billing. We was actually checking for funding on that, but we'd already had our full match in that. So he should come to the next meeting, and we'll have the closeout for the billing of what was completed, and also, be talking about the extension based on the contractor to get completed. The extension went till March. The state's very concerned that we're not working on it right now. It's kind of a strange situation because we wouldn't want to be putting asphalt down in the conditions we are, because the contractor will be redoing it. So he'll address some of those issues that we're having with the state, but I think we're going to be okay going forward, but they were really concerned with the fact that it didn't get completed. So there was some kind of communication breakdown between the state, us, and the grant writer, because we knew very well that we weren't going to be able to complete it based on weather or get the quality job we was after. So there will be some of that discussion from Tyler when it comes to the first meeting in February.
You're just talking about that north section?
What's that?
You're just talking about that north section?
North section.
To
To be done yet, Ben, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Theater report? Did you have anything else on streets?
No.
We met the other night, just went over a few things. The engineer does have some plans, and JR and Robert, I think, need to get together and kind of put their heads together to see if it's what we wanted, and
So I have gotten with Robert, and I
have you?
got a hold of the drawings. There are some things missing that we wanted to do in there, so there's some things to address before it comes to the council for recommendation on applying for funding. There's just, we've got to make sure we encompass everything we was after from the beginning. As you recall, that project got really strung out because building costs and all that stuff was going up, and they even suggested we hold off on it. I think we lost a little bit of the original structural concerns that we had, and I've talked to Robert about those, but we'll clear that up, get that information back and the estimates corrected for that, and then make a recommendation to the council once we get that cleared up.
Anything else?
Darren, can I ask you a question? We went and saw a movie here a while back. I don't know which one. And we were talking with the ladies after the movie, friends with all of them. And they expressed the fact that theater's hurting financially. So how are we looking there?
we reviewed, the stuff. I think with the situation in the last couple of years, that was no doubt that it was with COVID, the new movies coming out, that type of thing. It did affect them, but we did get that grant that Lila kind of applied for us, so that did help.
And
I
would
know
the board be open to
what
doing like Kobe does in Atwood and letting like local businesses advertise on there before the movie?
Well, it was brought up as discussion, but since it's a city-owned,
Makes it tricky, yeah, I know. And
where it's not private-owned,
right.
that there's legalities of what you can
Yeah.
advertise.
That's a Pandora's box, I know.
And then are you picking and choosing?
Right. Okay.
So,
That's a lot of money that could be made, is all I'm thinking. But-
Needless to
So-
say, it wouldn't be afloat if it wasn't the city's
Right,
structure
right.
and the way it is, but it serves the community. I mean, literally, you
Serves-
wouldn't have made it through the last 2 years on it. It never could have.
Right.
But again, we got some recovery on that too, with that
Good.
grant.
anything else? No, they've still been working some weekends. They got 2 more weekends I think they're going to work in February at the thrift store. So they're trying to make some money to go towards the renovation.
How's attendance been?
And they said, like some of the big ones that came out, like Spider-Man and some of them, they said were huge for them. So I think they're getting some new movies that are drawn.
Getting flown.
Yeah. That was their input into the on that.
If nothing else, I hear a motion to
So, second.
pass by David, moved by Hale to approve the theater report. Building permits.
There's 2 on the share, one to Brock McAtee for tear out and rebuild a larger structure down at the Ready Mix, and the other one is a fence. And they're both approved.
Did you give those back to me?
What's that?
Did you give those back to me?
I did not have it. And I did sign this. I don't know if
Any questions on the building permit?
Is it legal or illegal on the one who's in my fantasy football league to make a contention that he has to make a trade with me first before we'll approve it? Okay, never mind.
On the fence, it is correct, because we've got the property that was put up with the,
The wrong finish site, yes,
Mhm.
that has been corrected, yes.
do I hear a motion to approve the building permit?
So moved.
Moved by Larry, second by Hale, all in favor? Right. Superintendent report.
Okay, so we already talked about the theater, and I'm working on that with Robert. On the share, there's some estimates from Brock. Now, I don't want to share the prices openly in case we'd want to bid those. Now, we don't have other concrete contractors in town. I've been pressing him to get this information. One of these is already an encumbered project, which is the west end of Main Street, that 70-foot strip drainage that's in trouble structurally from the semis. The other 2 are ones that I had requested some time back. One of them is the repair for the vandalism damage that was done at the down at the pond. Originally, he was going to get out there and try to block something up with it. I didn't want to remove the stuff because I was afraid it was going to have vehicles. We did go ahead and fix all the fencing, but now we have an estimate. Now, I don't know whether we want to deal with insurance on that. Of course, we have a $1,000 deductible, whether we want to, I had never heard anything from law enforcement as far as the individual possibly being liable for the damages, but there's a number for us to work from with that. The third estimate is for the front steps. If you'll remember right, that concrete got salted, just made into a problem, and then our insurance company noticed the issue, which we was aware of, and suggested we get something done with it. So we now have an estimate for that. It does remove the trees, it does, but it makes it safer. It's a single set of steps. It takes it down to something that's reasonable for removal of material, and I think, the trees and the rocks, they might look nice, but I don't want them. I mean, the one is not healthy, and the other one drops fruit that literally makes it slick. It's just a problem. So I think if we can get another look at the design, Scott was kind of on that project with me when we went through and measured that, but I would want to confirm that that's what we want, and also that we don't want to put these things out for bid prior to discussing this, but there's something to work from of what we're looking at. The last one I asked Brock for, forever, the east end of the pool has been, we need to finish that. It comes up in spring, and of course, Brock gets busy. He was supposed to have me an estimate tonight, but he did assure me he looked at it today. The main problem I have is, we've been wanting to address the dirt. Kids go through there, just general appearances, it's just unfinished. The problem being the water line. However, if you look at it now, it's not a new problem, but the structural problem of the fence footing is evident. We're going to end up replacing a fence if we don't get something there. So I asked him to get me an estimate just to get that thing secured and leave the rest open to something else. Because to do that whole thing in concrete is going to be ridiculously expensive. I don't know that it's necessary, but the fence is something that has to be addressed right away. So I should have a price on that on the next one.
Is that something that could be grassed?
Once we get the fence,
Yeah,
the structural
on each
issue,
side.
it could be, yes. It's possible.
And that'd be a simple, quick fix that would maybe have long-term benefits. I don't know.
And originally, I'd gotten AstroTurf because people got an estimate on that, which I was kind of hoping we'd be able to do just because we need access to that water line. But it kind of actually came out quite expensive. It was like $8,000. I don't remember what it was, but it was quite a bit. However, I would press the council that we get the information and get something done with that east end of that pool. That thing's been that way too long. It's easy to ignore, but then when they have their swim meet and they use that area for transportation, we put rugs down to keep people from...
But you've looked at everything from carpet to rubber pellets, you've looked at everything, haven't you?
Yeah, and the price is the main issue with it. I mean, concrete, it's just a lot of area. It's 140 feet by, I think, is it 30? It might be 22, I don't remember. But, to try to put something down that's structurally going to hold, you can't put down 2 inches of concrete. It's going to be one of those messes. So I know that's been the issue, but the fence absolutely must be dealt with, and I think it needs to get finished.
We had talked about, there were some people that had mentioned maybe putting some rock down, but then the rock will end up in the pool. Young kids will come through and pick it up and throw it in. We have enough problems keeping rocks out of the pool.
We even talked about river rock with a slurry in, but then you got slick spots because they actually want to walk on this stuff. So it's kind of a hard deal, and then it's got a weird slope to it too that we need to transition out of. Like I said, I'm just kind of punted and told Brock I've got to get a solution for that fence.
Well, I agree with you on the fence. We got to get that done. We're getting close.
Yeah. And I don't know why we couldn't incorporate a sidewalk into that side, a level sidewalk of 4 feet out from that. And I don't mean punt, but I don't know what to do with that. There's so much money involved with that other area to go concrete. Any other loose material you put in there, you're going to be dealing with it in the pool. So whatever the case, I don't want to be talking about trying to figure out what we're going to do with it in April, because then it's too late.
And you said that there was a water line underneath there?
Yeah, the water line, so originally that was all the little kids' baseball area and/or playground. And so the sprinkler system that still goes over to the buffalo grass runs through that, right down the center of this.
If you were to put like a wood decking down there that's level with the rest of the ground, that you could access that, how long would that hold up? Would you have to replace it, every 2 years, 3 years?
I think you'd want to go with a plastic composite or something rather than wood,
something like that.
because otherwise you're going to be staining and whatnot. But what we're really trying to do is two or three different things: is preserve the fence for the private owner, and we'll get rid of the unfinished look of it, obviously. But there needs to be some walkway that's acceptable through there, whether it's right up at the fence and deals with that, or whether it's on the other side. The problem with that is the way the slope goes. It's not just a simple sidewalk.
Okay.
So, again, that's why I'm working on getting something on that. I think we'll just wait till the next meeting, because I wanted to check on that policy as far as advertising it out. I've been pressing so long for these things that, wow, maybe we should have advertised. So don't give that monetary information out, please.
What's the time frame on the Washington?
Well, anything we do that's on the streets, I want it done as early in spring as possible because of the spalling from the salt that the state puts on the highway up there. The later towards fall you pour concrete, the more likely it's going to bust up if we get any snow. On the share, there is from the local co-op a chemical bid. We do this every year where we try to get our chemicals in bulk to get the price better. One of the main problems is one of our primary chemicals, 2,4-D, in the form we normally get it, isn't available this year. Might not be next year, and it's all in the supply thing. Literally, they say it's on a ship. You're not going to get it. I mean, it sounds bizarre, but that's what we're being told. So we're looking at alternatives. There's granular, there's other things, but they don't work as well. So right in the middle of trying to deal with the chemical problems of the islands that are the states that we're stuck with and other things. Now we're going to have some chemical shortages, but we're going to make do with what's available and do the best we can. So I would recommend we accept the pricing on the chemicals that are available so we can take care of what we can. That price is $6,233.
Is there a motion to go ahead and approve the chemical bid?
There's no other option, huh?
No. There used to be. We used to have Bartlett Co-op and even Grace Point Service at one time did bid, but yeah, we don't have a local option.
This is Stratton Co-op.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of local.
Yeah, it's
Oh, we did. Yeah, I mean, that's, we just always gone with theirs. And we have before double checked with other places just for price fairness, and so they've been good.
So,
Moved by Cale,
Second.
second by David, all in favor?
Yes, I just have one question on permits. I'm looking at buying the old Great Western Tire Store, which will remove the lines, put them in, done everything down. He's moved out. Now the roof leaks, and there's a busted window up front. Do I need a permit to replace that window and have polyurethane sprayed on that roof to seal it? Do I need a permit?
You're not putting the structure on the roof, you're just putting the polyurethane, neither one. No. Windows the same size and the same frame,
Right.
no permit. No,
Okay.
you can just do it through. The one thing I guess, thing I'd mention about the chemical bids is because we didn't get everything we want to have, if something becomes available to substitute that, there will be additional chemical costs within this year. And I hope that's the case because we have some residual from last year, but we'll definitely, we like to use the chemicals that work and that we're used to. So hopefully we can do something there. I already mentioned that Tyler would be here at the February, the first meeting in February. I guess I don't know which one that is.
14th.
4th, I think I couldn't be right. Late Friday, of course, late Friday, about 3:30, we noticed a water break on Main Street. That's an area that they had prior to me being here, multiple problems with that. And I don't know whether it has to do with the spring, what the issue with it is, but it's kind of a one after the other. Whatever the case, we had a break there, and thanks to the research that we have done and being able to isolate the water areas, we did not have to shut down town. We was out till a little after 8 o'clock and got that fixed. But it was one of those deals. I'm not sure why that area is problematic. That's the third one in that area, and they replaced plastic prior to me being here. 2 valves and some plastic in trying to isolate it. So I think I'm going to have Miller look at that because I don't want to keep doing this. I'm not sure what is different in this area, whether we have some factor that hammers it or what. I guess maybe 3 times isn't bad for 20 years, but nowhere else in town since I've been here have we gone to the same place, that many times. It's just kind of an odd deal. So whatever the case, it's fixed. It's fixed properly where it was broke. I guess hopefully it doesn't happen again anytime too soon. This new thing with the FMCLSA, I probably said that wrong, the acronym, federal driving, as it would relate to CDL drivers, which we require of our employees. After February 7th, they're going to require a schooling, and it's called ELDT, Early Learning, something, first-time drivers for CDLs will have to go to a class before they can even go to the DOT. And it's a lot like the KLETC used to be with officers, where this thing's expensive. It's upwards of $4,000 for somebody to go to this before they can even go to the DMV to try to take the written test. So I just wanted to mention that because it's going to be that one of those situations where if you hire somebody and you require them to have that, I'm not sure how we deal with that cost, and if we do deal with that cost, we're going to have some kind of guarantee, just like we used to with officers. Anyway, the federal government put us in a weird place on that. I have no idea what this thing is. They delayed it 2 years ago because of COVID, but as of February 7th, they're saying this is going to be implemented. That's the way it's going to be from now on. New CDL drivers will be required to have the certificate prior to even walking in the door. So.
Is that just for municipalities?
Nope, that is any commercial driver's license, Class A, Class B, all endorsements,
Really?
anything. Passenger, bus drivers will have to do it. School's going to have to deal with this, and of course, they don't, I don't want to be rude, but they don't pay much, and they have trouble finding drivers now. Throw this into the mix, and throw it into the mix with the ridiculous shortage of truck drivers everywhere. I mean, it's a really strange thing that they're implementing, and of course, it has to do with safety, but I don't know. We'll have to deal with that in some form. I've only got one employee, the one newest employee who doesn't have a CDL. If he can just get his written test by February 7th, we can bypass this with him. So he assures me he'll be able to pass. He's got an appointment this Friday. Let's hope he does. So we're not dealing with this sooner rather than later. Because after that date, that's what it'll be. So another fun regulation to be following. On recycling, of course, we're still working with recycling, trying to figure out what to do with the changes ever since the regional thing went away. Currently, we're sending our cardboard and paper products. Sunoco comes and picks that stuff up. They do give us a price for that. I think it's $30 per ton less than what the market is. Part of that is transportation, is the other is that we have the balers. So for the most part, that holds up. The problem is I'm not sure that makes sense with the total tonnage we're sending. I mean, we have to have the balers, so currently that's the only solution for that. Right now we're taking glass bottles, but we're not hauling them all the way to Hutchison, 300 miles away, to pay $94 a ton to throw it away. The landfill assures me it has no negative effect on there, so we're basically collecting them and hauling it out there. That doesn't make any sense. It's household trash. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to deal with these things because we're handling something twice and then taking it to where it would be if you just didn't take it. Obviously, the downside is recycling has to do with taking things and keeping them out of there. What used to be the issue was the landfill had a less than a 25-year life. Well, when they got the other cell in, we're 100-plus years now. We've got to find out a balance of time and what we actually pay for how long to haul things away than to pay to have them more or less disposed of. It's easy to say, well, Stutzman's a recycle company, they're doing this, doing that. Stutzman's a landfill company. We're hauling our trash down there, is what the plastic and the tin cans. That's the only thing we're hauling, because it's the one thing that we can compact to an area that, I think we can get 14 of the Gaylords in one trash truck. Problem is then we put a guy on the road for 13 hours, $500 in fuel, wear and tear on a vehicle to pay $94 a ton to dispose of it. We've been talking to the landfill again. We compacted the last load, took it out there, said I want to just do an experiment. I want to see if we're getting enough air out of this thing for it to be a way to dispose of it where it doesn't have a negative effect. The initial thought from the landfill operator is just quit taking it. It's household trash, just quit taking it. So, well, I want to cover all the avenues here because if we can compact it and be doing something that makes sense for the landfill, divide more time on it, that's what recycling is about. So we took it out there, we kicked it out of the trash truck. It doesn't have a great amount of memory, but it is loose, so he does not want it in that way. But he said he'd take it in bales. Well, here we go. Now we're putting more labor into putting it into something, and we're still putting it in the landfill. So I just don't want to go backwards. If we get to a position where we're not going to take something, I don't want to then have to go back on it. So we're trying to cover all the bases. We've hauled loads to Hutchison. We've taken some to the dump. Glass, I don't know how we could do anything any different with that product.
Are they talking about crushing the glass?
They were at one time. Originally, they thought they wanted it because they would mix it in with their cover machine. We produce far more than they have for that. You get the actual percentages of tonnages, and this is where it gets itchy to me, because people like to recycle. They want to do the right thing, and all of a sudden we're going to be saying, well, it doesn't do any good, so we don't want to do this. It's a hard sell. I mean, until we've covered all the bases, I'm not comfortable stopping taking products. But with a few of these things, I don't see how it's going anywhere, how it could be anywhere else. We're going to, we're paying a significant amount of money and resources to get rid of a very small
It's
impact.
costing the city a pretty penny.
And the county too, because they still offset the cost of doing the recycling. And the last 2 times I've been to the commissioner meetings, that's come up. Why are we still doing this? Well, again, I'm not comfortable with just saying, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore, we'll take cardboard and paper, everything else, throw it in your household trash. It just seems like a hard sell to me. I don't want to go backwards. If we do end up doing that, I just feel like we have to have tried everything before we go that way.
Do you have any idea what some of these other cities are doing, like Colby?
No, they do their cardboard. They haul to Stutzman. They run a trash truck.
But nothing else?
Nope. And then Centennial out of Colorado is getting their paper products. But the only thing that truly makes sense from the monetary standpoint, now that's saying your landfill's in good shape, because if you only had 25 years, you'd be wanting to keep every single thing out of there. Well, at what point do you act like it doesn't count? And for 20 years you put it in there, and then all of a sudden you have to do it because you've lost your time. It's a county decision is really the bottom line of it, because they offset our costs, and it's the landfill that they manage. I mean, the answers really have to come from there. We're just kind of stuck in the middle because the city's the recycle operator.
On the tin cans, aluminum, whatever, I think Alf will pay for that stuff.
He will, and I was asked that today. What I'm doing is checking in Denver right now, because I want to know what a market price is. I mean, it needs to be a reasonable number. So yes, I was made aware of that he would be interested in that stuff. That and paper products is the one thing we collect that actually has a value. But again, if you get into transporting quantities of it, then we would start taking away from that. So, that in talking forever about recycling, that's where that's kind of at. I'll be going back to the commissioners on the plastic, because I don't think baling the plastic is an option. I think we either keep sharing drivers to take it to Hutchinson, or we realize that quantify the impact on the landfill, and that's their decision, in my opinion. So, just wanted to be really public and really clear about it's nothing against recycling. It's just it's hard to make it make sense when you don't have a regional outlet. But that had gotten so expensive. That's why it didn't work. We're here because it went there. It's just on a local scale.
They don't have a real good way to compact out there like Goodland does. They don't have a compactor that all trash.
They have, Goodland has that.
That's not good.
They just make giant bales with that. Yeah. And they actually take from other communities. They have such an extended.
It blows my mind, the stuff that goes. Everything goes in the trash at Goodland. There is no recycling.
I think that's part of the issue too. It's not state mandated. You can do a really good job of recycling, and this community did a great job of recycling. I mean, tonnage-wise per capita, it was at the top of the list all the time from the time it ever started. But without it being something that's a requirement, it becomes about the age of the landfill and money. That's it. The outlet for it when China was taking basically the dirty trash, when that went away, that's what killed the regional area, and it's just the trickle-down effect is we have a lot of trash and paper products. So, just want to be really upfront, because if we get to that point where we have to not take something, I don't think it's just as simple as just saying, well, we're not going to recycle anymore.
So if anything, you're probably the bottles first, right?
Yeah, that one we can't, you can't crush them in that truck and then pay per tonnage down there. You just can't make that one. You can't. I don't think you could talk me into trying that one. But the plastic, we were trying it just because compaction. Thinking about the amount of air you're burying and stuff in household trash, and that is extremely expensive. I've asked about that, the baling thing, where they do the giant bales of the household trash. I guess there's a multi-million-dollar contraptions. I've never seen it, but when I heard that was their solution, I was like, well, why don't we look into that? And I think it becomes really
It
obvious.
just blows my mind, the amount of trash that goes and gets baled. It's mind-boggling.
So worst case scenario, we might be looking at only accepting cardboard.
Paper products and cardboard, so that would be chipboard and cardboard. That's the only, and the aluminum cans, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But those are the only things that aren't an extreme negative.
Right.
Especially where they'll pick that up. I mean, you still have the labor in it.
Sure.
You're not making anything, you're still
No.
losing on it.
Yeah.
But the issue is, if you give it all up, that's 180, 190 tons per year that will go out there. Well, the primary tonnage is in the paper products.
Yeah.
And that one has a true and probably noticeable impact at the dump.
Yeah.
But these other things, just for what quantities they are and what it costs to handle and or dispose of them, is just, we're not making sense of it at this point.
I'm wondering, a friend of mine in Dallas, my hometown, he's been mayor for about 3 years, and they have he calls it an EPA-friendly incinerator. And he says, pay $2 for this thing. But it has to be because it's regulated by the EPA. And I got thinking, I didn't even think about it when I talked to him, but that's probably so far out of the realm of possibility for a small community like ours, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Money-wise, isn't it? Yeah.
Without a doubt. Otherwise, you would see them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's recycling is sold in, and I don't mean dry into this, but from the time kids go to school, you learn it's good to recycle things. It's good to, you're saving the earth. You're doing all the right things, and it's just really weird when it comes down to the truth of the matter is it's how big is the hole in the county you're at.
Right.
I mean, it's unfortunate that the recycling thing is sold way better than what the reality of it is.
And like,
And that's what
and the
we're
cities,
finding.
they're starting to get people to bring in their own sacks from the stores and
Mhm.
stuff like that, that they just use all the time. They're starting to charge
Mm-hmm.
for those paper sacks,
Right.
or plastic sacks. Because they don't want them blowing all over the city and,
Mhm.
yeah, so.
Well, one of the things we found when we went to Dallas, we went to 4 different places that our straws were paper.
Mm-hmm. We ran into that.
And
in
then
Florida.
they lasted
Yeah.
just fine. I thought, well, that's coming.
We tried that.
We did in California.
You
Nobody
did?
liked them.
Did they not work?
Nobody liked them. Because they turn to mush and then you try to take a drink and it collapses.
The ones we used, they worked
The ones
really
we
well.
used were like almost like the old sucker handles.
Mhm.
The hole wasn't very large, but they were rigid. Anyway, there's other ways. I guess it's from the producer side that it makes more sense at this point for us. But anyway, not trying to bash on recycling, but we're going through the motions to figure out the best thing to do with it. And that
It doesn't sound like there's anybody around. We
is
gotta
all I
be
have.
part.
What's that?
We gotta be part.
Yeah, and I don't think, in fact, I think KDHE actually has a little bit of say in that one. When you get to that much time, these other things, it's all local level. So, more information to come.
That was on my list when I brought it up.
What's that?
The recycling.
Anything else to
Hey,
do?
look at question. What we're doing.
Yeah, I'm just curious where we're at, because I've been hearing from the,
All the electrical stuff, or where are they at on all the feeds, the upgrades?
As far as work
They're all
for the
done
next year contract,
Or
we-
they're done for, what, so which project is next?
well, 1 and 3 are not complete. The north and south side of Main Street were that project. The next phase will take more material, and I'm hoping to work directly with the contractor on that. They have some in-house work. They've been really good to work with, so I'm hoping to move forward with that.
I was happy to see there was no outage during the 7-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it does start to make a difference, but
Yeah.
we will still have them. There's
Oh,
still
yeah.
a lot of old parts in town, and something clear across town can cause us problems, but we are seeing, I think, some of the
Yeah.
benefits of having spent it. I know we talked about this sometime back, but we wouldn't wait till it was into the next budget year, but this year, right back at it. I think, with the revenue difference that we've had with the new contract, setting aside the big storm event, I want to keep pushing that money towards the improvement on the electrical. Every dollar we spend there, I think, is well spent. So we kind of get a grip on cash flows and everything. We want to be nailing that down as soon as possible. They like to work here in the fall. I'd rather have us designated and know it's going to be earmarked for it early. So.
This coming fall? This coming fall?
Yes. Yeah, each year I want to, as of January, start talking about the electrical work to keep the money flowing back into the system.
Speaking of that new boiler down there, that's completely done. The new boiler y'all were putting in, that's completely done?
It is, correct, yep. Working well. Yes, sir.
Anything else from JR? Not going to hear a motion to approve the superintendent report.
So,
McNeil, second by Larry, all in favor? Lauren, do you have anything? Do you have anything wrong? Okay. Clerk report.
I don't have too much. The small business incentive that you all approved for St. Francis Tire at the last meeting actually had a couple of mistakes on it. They had listed 6 employees, but 2 of those are only temporary. They're only going to be there for 6 weeks, a couple of months. So really the incentive should only have been for 12 months, a total of $1,200, $100 a month, up to $100 a month for 12 months. So I just need a motion to approve the amended utility incentive. And I did talk to Gavin, and he absolutely agrees that that's more appropriate.
So moved.
Moved by David, second by Cale, all in favor? All right.
David and Cale? Really good news on the ARPA funds. So the federal Treasury released the final rule on how we can use the ARPA funds. And as you may recall, there was lots of restrictions on the initial rule for how these funds could be used. The final rule now has indicated that entities can claim a revenue loss of up to $10 million. And so for us, our entire ARPA funds can be classified as revenue loss. And what that means to the city, and there's something out on the share if you want to read it, a couple of front and back on exactly what that means. But basically, that releases those funds to be spent for services, government services, however we choose. There's no limitations now on how.
Fantastic.
We do not have to justify the spending of those funds, other than obviously they need to be for government services.
And I would still highly recommend we maintain those funds or appropriate funds for the water control system, which is what we originally talked about, which was an acceptable thing for that. That's going to be in the low to mid 100s, I would expect. What are we, 168,000 on that?
No, it's going to be more than that. It's almost 200,000.
Okay.
We got this last year we got 98,500, and this year we will get another 98,000.
Okay. Again, that was, we had hoped along back when we was working on getting bids, which we've never been able to receive through COVID, of getting people to come out to get us those bids on that water control system. But that's a high priority, is that automated system in my mind for the water system. So not quite throw it to the general fund, in my opinion. I mean, as long as we maintain those funds for that.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. It'll be great for me because the reporting will be really simplified, since we're just going to claim the revenue loss. So the reporting and tracking of this is going to be great. So that was really good news. I had a call from Karen Nauer, and she wanted to know if we could put up on the LED sign information about the Lions Club meetings that are held. The policy says that the sign can be used for nonprofit and community and government entity events. I feel like the way that I interpret that is, if we put meetings on the sign, we will be opening that up for anybody who wants to put their meetings on the sign. You can't tell one group, yes, you can advertise your meetings, and somebody else you can't. In the past, this has been special events, community special events. But I said I would ask. It cannot be used for retail or profit purposes. or to advance or support any one individual's or organization's political or religious purposes or agenda. So those are the broad rules. So
So it's still a nonprofit though, right?
it is, but it's not really an event. It's a
Oh.
monthly meeting.
Well, this first I've heard.
Oh,
I didn't know.
how often do you all meet?
We meet once a month,
So it'd
but
be-
then the bingo's in there too, and believe me, it's nonprofit.
Oh, and I understand it's nonprofit, but it's not a special event. It's a meeting.
And what has been the thing in the past on that is you would run into anything from Girl Scout meetings to reminder tonight for normally scheduled stuff, which is just a normal event thing.
Right.
And then you can get into church events, which you don't, nothing against church, but you want to stay away from anything political
Yeah.
and or religious.
And I know one time, Jerry.
Knowing
Moran
that
was
the
coming.
Lions Club is not, but I mean,
Right.
it opens the door to the other potential issues with that is how it's been described.
I remember one time, it was a couple of years back, I think Jerry Moran, maybe someone else, but one of the guys was coming, and someone was wanting to advertise on them, they couldn't because it was a specific,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and so, and
If
I
it's
see
an
that.
elected official that's already in office, we can put that up there, because that's an elected official, and he's coming to town, like the most recent one, we put it up there. But that's,
oh, because they got pushback on it, so they weren't able to do it at that time.
well, they would have had to come through me, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. Because I put everything on the sign.
I think it was Kerry Swiger who told me this. So I'll ask him again,
Yeah.
see, make sure I'm not complaining it with another.
Was it an elected official?
Hmm?
Was it someone who's already elected?
If it was like a town hall or something
I
like
don't
that.
remember.
That should have, that should
Oh,
have
you're
been
talking about
fine.
Tracy Mann?
Yeah, and that was on there. Right. Well,
But my point is, I understand why, because you don't want to open up Pandora's box again,
yes.
so.
But so is that what you're saying, is we're not going to put meetings on the sign? Because if we do, we're going to have to put, like you said, 4-H meetings, we're going to have to put Girl Scout meetings, anybody that asks, that's a nonprofit. And if you've driven by that sign, you get too much on that sign, and it's hard to see anything that's on the sign. So
Right.
I'm just pointing out my observations.
Well, I know I'm the first one who'll come up and say, well, if you let them do their meeting, why won't you let me do my meeting?
Mhm.
So,
Okay. And then the only other thing I have is my anniversary is coming up on February 2nd, and I have not been able to use all my vacation, so I am asking to carry over 40 hours. Please.
I'll do that between now and 2030.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep accumulating. Is that okay? That's all I have.
Anything else for Lila? We have to approve the chicken.
do we make,
permit?
you can make a motion for that?
Oh, I forgot my chicken permit.
Yeah.
It's a renewal.
Oh, shoot.
Annual chicken?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, let's put it in the clerk report. Motion for that,
Moved by Dara.
What are we doing?
chicken
Chicken.
chicken permit for Kim Zweigert. Renewal.
Second by Larry, all in favor? Anything else?
And we're going to talk about the new people.
That's
Okay.
She will probably call an executive session.
If no questions for Lila, do I hear a motion to accept and approve the clerk report? Moved by Gail, second by Larry, all in favor? Council comments, David.
The buffalo statue
Mhm.
that we've been talking about is going to be placed in between the office down here for the Cheyenne County Development Corporation and Sandra's place. So it's going to be right in between those two places. There'll be a new pad laid, and it already sits on its own pad, but there'll be a new concrete pad set. So it'll be nice. It'll look really, really good.
Good.
So,
Who actually owns that property?
hmm?
Who actually owns that property? Any idea?
I don't know.
This is going off the sidewalk, I presume.
Off the sidewalk.
Okay.
It's a 5-foot tall, stone buffalo statue that's being donated
Sandra
where's
and
it at?
Chandra and GC.
in between the Development Corporation's office and
CCD.
Oh, that open little space there.
Drop Lab stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's not very big. There's a decent amount of space. I
Ten?
think.
We were, it's really nice, and it probably would have been okay out of the, on the walkway, but it's pretty tall, and so I was
I was a
a
little
little
concerned
nervous
with
if
it
the
being
kid got up
on
there and fell, there'd be liability issues, so yeah, this way it'll be back.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
No, I'm glad. I looked at that when we had originally talked about it, the space in between the buildings to see who owned it, and I can't remember.
I thought the mayor said it was Sandra that owned that. Oh,
That's what, the only reason I even brought it up is to make sure it's clear with the owner.
right.
Well, I know we talked to Sandra, and she's on board with it,
Somebody
so.
just acquired a buffalo. It'll get removed like the Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I was a little leery
Yeah.
being on the sidewalk and
Yeah.
things it was, and
It's first class looking, it looks really sharp, but, 4-year-old kid gets up on there and they fall off, and that could be scary real quick.
Gail, do you have anything?
Yeah, maybe just about our guests. Obviously, we have some things we got to figure out, so I don't think we can get Hill to do anything. It's probably going to have to be.
I was going to ask for a recommendation on that. I don't know what to do. I mean, we can talk about
We almost need a
placement.
part-time city person just to do those things.
I
But
don't-
you're gonna have to figure out who and where.
And,
Yeah.
and at what level? I'm just pissed I don't like the city. I want you to do mine too. You do hers.
Right.
You're right there. That's the problem. And
It's
I
like
don't,
that.
it's not that I'm against helping people who need it, but I know what we're going to run into.
I know.
I mean, it's almost like they have to notify the city department or the city office to
You have to
say,
verify
I
they're
need help with
disabled.
my.
Or,
And here- and
I mean,
here-
I can understand, if you're 80-some years old,
Yeah.
it's hard.
But it's not like we didn't see this coming, we talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
And we've addressed a lot of these
Yeah.
by way of what can we do differently,
Right.
and by talking to the trash guys about placement, and we've been able to come up with solutions to a lot of them. But
And I was going to tell Bill, like with Larry, him and Larry were good friends before Larry passed away. That's what neighbors do. We just, Jackie and I would go to Larry's yard because he got older. We just do it. You would hope in this town the neighbors would just kind of rally around you and support you and help. But
I think Keel started to mention something about, could people call the city office and make a special request, and then we make a decision based on whether to allow it or not?
My only,
since right now we go around, and I'll just tell you what we're doing for our own trash in the city is, so we have the ones that are at the roadside parks that are tied down. In those ones, we go up and release those, we pull them out to the road, we go to the parks, we make sure the bags are up tied, pull them out to the streets. So we do our own, just like we're asking everybody else to do.
Right.
And I'm not saying that we should do more, do less, or whatever the case being, but that's why, obviously, we didn't want to change it where we could have them all out there just for them.
I can just tell you, if you
How do
bring
they- how
an
do they-
80-year-old case before me, I'm voting yes, let's do something at a time. But the problem is, you
It's
start
the
doing the
abuser.
numbers,
Yeah.
you can be looking at 150, 200 people every trash day.
But couldn't that come back to be a decision of the council?
Yeah, I could.
Case by
we have to
case
hire
basis?
someone to do it, though. That's the thing. We need another employee.
Well,
We used to do that. We can't even get employees. I mean, you're probably already short, right?
3. And I don't know that it couldn't be a contract thing where this person does this for a given amount to do something like that, and maybe does
Right.
the city's trash too to make it worth doing.
Right.
Because you're going onto private property to move trash cans for elderly people. I don't want a city employee in that situation. I just wonder if there isn't maybe some way we could.
That's a good idea.
And the other thing would be charge for the service, potentially. I don't know. Again, this is just now coming up. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the hell I do tomorrow because she's going to not have her trash can out there and she expects to have it put up and she's gonna be calling city
Oh, yeah,
office,
sure.
angry about her trash. I mean,
Well, and I understand her mindset, because she's, in her mind, she feels like she's already paid, so.
Yeah, we didn't charge for it.
I know.
It just has to be
And it changed from,
part of our,
it went to the street from the alley.
a dead end out.
alley
I
to the
realize
street,
that.
alley to the street. So
'Cause
she
that
used to
alley
be
was
in
too
the alley,
narrow?
Now it's in the street. The alley's a dead end and they can't.
Oh.
I can't back in and back out.
Well, I don't know, I was gonna talk to him about, because if we could fix that one by having them back in that alley potentially, and have Wade and the other ones put them
On the
all on
other
the
side.
same side where they're not backing in and then driving in, maybe.
But
And I
there's
don't
other
know.
alleys that are the same way. I mean, I live on one of those. and-
Yeah,
Well,
some of
again, we've addressed these in this way so far, aside from this one, as best we can by being pretty staunch about we can't, we can't make them do that for you. Can we come up with a better place to put it to accommodate both parties? Is how we've been trying to address it. And I don't know, that's going to work out in this one. I have to go look at the alley, talk to Billy, see if there's something we can do, because we have repeatedly made changes based on someone's ability to get it out there. I also know other elderly people who have neighbors who are taking their own trash out, and they take their neighbor's trash out too, so.
And the wind is no doubt
The wind's broke.
And I thought about it that day, because even in our alley, when I went out there to set mine up, I looked and everyone was laying down in the alley. And I thought, man, if this was, and I thought to myself, if this was on the street, what would this look like? So,
Yeah, and that part of it's really not, the street access ones are the ones that have to be street access.
Right.
I mean, where there is no choice. And I think most of those were before,
right.
Street access, and of course, when wind blows, we just have those problems. So,
And
see what we do, I talk to Billy, look at the alley, see if there's something we
Yeah.
can do.
And I would suggest, whatever we decide we're going to try to do tonight, if maybe if Lila could call her first thing in the morning and let her know. I would rather be proactive on this than be reactive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So what is it that you're going to try to do? What is it you want me to relay to her?
Well, I think we need to find out, like JR says, see if the alley would work or not. Because I'm assuming that before.
But if she has it up on her property, not at the alley or not at the street, I'm not going to send somebody up to get it. You know what I mean? We can't go up on private property. That's why it's alley access or street access. So that's,
So if the trash is already in the alley.
if it's in the alley, and if it's reachable, that's.
I don't know where it was before.
I feel like we need to wait and see what they come up with before I make a phone call
Oh,
to her, because that
absolutely.
can make it a
No,
whole lot worse.
I think I'll go there first thing in the morning and talk to Billy first thing. It's going to be weathery tomorrow. They probably won't start that over there. I'll start doing it. I'll just get with him first thing and try to see if there's a solution we can come up with to accommodate the alley access like it used to be. I'd much rather deal with one who's upset enough to come to the meeting and deal with it and scratch that off the list than have 20 or 30 people who've been at the coffee shop and decided they don't want to do it anymore. They have been doing it. That's what I'm concerned with about
Right.
dealing with it. All I can do is look at it. Can't work it out. I'll talk to Lila and you as well, because she came and presented to the council, I guess, and see whether there's a solution.
Maybe you just have to use your free time. Help
Yeah.
out.
What am I going to do? Well, I can do 3-hour lunch breaks.
It was just more of those suggestions, I guess, that we can chip away at them or something, come up with some solutions. I mean, just like on Main Street, and I don't know if it's something that beautification, Washington Main Street, for trash cans type thing on. But then they're having to go and manually take them out,
Who's responsible for that? Does the city take care of the stuff on Main Street? Yes?
Huh?
Does the city take care of the
No,
stuff on Main Street?
no, they have one. They do.
actually go and pull stuff out and
Mhm.
Big bag one.
Very bad.
We could use more trash cans. Ours
Mhm.
fills up fast. People empty their cars when they pull up.
That's the part that
Yeah.
burns me.
Mhm.
then dump it.
You know how much McDonald's bags I see in there?
I don't think that's a bad idea either. I mean, assuming we can handle the extra load. That's the
Yeah,
issue.
I just don't like collecting people's stuff out of their vehicles, you know, that's what happens when it's a piece of trash from
Yeah.
the local, it's not that big of a deal, but I can't stand the thought of.
They-
local
They're
mandate.
different trash cans. They're not just big green
Right.
trash
Oh, no,
cans.
it's
They're
the
those
black
black
ones.
ones.
Right.
that are- So do we have more of those?
We do.
Oh.
Thought we'd probably get more.
But you need something that's
That's fine.
stable, that's not going to be brought away.
Yeah, I think it has to be something like that, or else like the ones we use at the pool.
How hard would it be to get more of those? Or have we already looked into that?
We can get them. I've just resisted it, and I'm just telling you why, because I know people pull up from the farm and stuff them full of this, that, and everything, and on they go. The next
Yeah.
person comes by and pick up a piece of trash on the street, there's no room in it, but that's not here nor there. You can't change people's behavior. We get the same thing at the roadside, at the parks, you know, there's nothing worse than seeing somebody pull up their door, open crap falling out, and they're throwing it in the
Yeah.
trash can that's supposed to be for the park. That's just trash. So, do we want more?
I don't know.
People's behavior cracks me up. There's a
Well, it'd be
gentleman who
one less
pulls up
thing to
next to
complain
my
about.
office.
Yeah, I
every
know.
night.
Get a few, get a few more.
I'm sorry, what was you
There's a
saying?
gentleman who pulls up from my office every night, and he's there from 8 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning, utilizing the motorcycle museum's free Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, every day you do this, you could probably pay for your own Wi-Fi and get the gas alone you spend coming here.
Well, then the vehicle leaks so much oil, have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's horrible, he sits on the other side.
Every day, and I'm like,
I told Eddie
Your
I was
own
gonna
Wi-Fi.
change the password and send him over to the library. I'm tired of looking at that thing sitting there.
What is it?
I have no idea who it is. Old gray four-door
Yeah.
Lincoln kind of thing.
how far, yeah.
But he will spend 5-6 hours.
Hours.
sitting there.
There's another guy in white van.
Was the drama at the library,
It's
it
not,
was
not situated
not,
yet.
We missed a couple meetings.
Well, this happened,
yeah.
right after, it was in Thursday, and after you guys' last meeting. You weren't here either. They blow up at the library.
Same guy.
Some, I can't think of the guy's name, come in and got in a fight with the manager, and huge fist fight, sent him to the hospital.
Can we say who it is?
I don't think.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, one manager ended up at the hospital, and the other individual, my understanding was he was hauled off. What's going to come out of it, I don't know. I don't know the whole you know, thing.
So, did I hear that we are going to look at bigger trash cans on Main Street or more trash cans? Adding trash cans.
How many's on each block now? Just
One on mine.
Just one?
Just one.
How many do we have total?
I think it's 6.
So go to 12. Is that what you're thinking?
7.
Whatever you guys want. I should just stay out of it, you tell me what you want.
Maybe we could get the businesses that are in front of, like mine. If you give me the bags, then I'll keep them changed. I don't know. I think if we had more bags and maybe businesses that we want to help out. Or they have bags. More trash recyclables. It would help a lot.
I'll get the prices on them. I think they're
You're talking 3 blocks, so each block could have one more on each side.
Like Ross, when you need one on his block, there's nobody in it. Maybe one by the London Yard. Thanks.
You start off slow and get the price tag,
Yeah,
and kind of ease them out.
Aren't they around a couple hundred? No, they were a few hundred each, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, they're $300 or $400, $500. They got that heavy stuff on them.
Heavy rubber, recycled rubber.
Is the one being utilized out in the library? I got moved around. Remember that was one of the big issues. I got moved around to the south side.
I forgot about that. Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's still sitting on the south side of the library. I don't know that it ever got moved back out front. But I don't know if,
Just on the southeast corner.
I think it got moved over there. I mean, if they're not going to utilize it in front of the library, we might as well put it somewhere else. All right, do you have anything?
I got 2 things. Alumni weekend is June 18th. I was wondering if the council would approve having a 3-day swimming that day for alumni. If there'd be any objections to that.
I think that'd be a great idea.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second by David, all in favor? Correct?
Second thing I've got is the concert in the park will be August 20th, which is Saturday night. We're bringing the long run back to town. So,
You didn't have to do that on the first day of attendance.
I thought about that when we did it.
I thought you did.
Because I couldn't believe they already had the last weekend booked.
Really?
Because we told them, we said, I'll check, and called the back, said, nope, already booked.
Wow.
Larry, I would just suggest that you get your special event permit done as soon as possible so that nobody comes in and tries to book a wedding or anything on your weekend.
Okay.
But I'll write you down.
Yeah, I'll write this down for the 20th, because it's in concrete already.
Okay.
I think that's all I got.
I don't have anything. Do I want to head nudge to the regular session to go over applicants?
That's a good idea.
Motion.
I move we go into executive session for 10 minutes coming out at 9:12 for the purpose of looking at potential applicants for assistant city clerk. With, you want to be in on this?
I mean, interview-wise, I would like to be, but it don't matter.
But it's up to you. Is everybody in the room, with the exception of JRP, isn't one?
Everybody's welcome to.
Unless you want to be, then.
Council and Lyle.
Thanks, JR.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
We're done. Okay.
No decisions were made in executive session. We're now in regular session. Gail has made a motion to adjourn, looks like. Second. Second by David.